So is it cyber or is it E&O? I'm talking a lot about ransomware claims, and you may be thinking, well, Meredith, I thought this was a webinar on technology E&O. Well, they go hand in hand. So if I am an insurance agent and I walk into the Chamber of Commerce, my local Chamber of Commerce, to give a presentation on insurance, and my presentation is on a little thumb drive that I put into the Chamber of Commerce's computer, and I cause them to have a virus, is that E&O or is that cyber? That's going to be cyber because I caused them to have a virus. And preventing viruses is not my professional service. My professional service is being an insurance agent. When you have an IT provider, if they would cause you to have some type of data breach, is that cyber or is that E&O? Because isn't it my job to make sure you don't get a virus, but also I caused you to have a virus? So it's both. So if you have an E&O policy that is like excluding all cyber coverages, and you have a cyber policy that's excluding professional services, you may have two separate policies that are pointing at each other. So we're always going to put that network security and technology professional on the same policy, because, and it's just, they really go hand in hand for the managed service providers. I think it's just really important to have those together. First and third party cyber. Third parties is the network security liability. That's, hey, I caused harm to somebody and they are bringing a claim against me. The first party is when the MSP or the insured comes directly to the insurance company for, you know, whether it be forensics or notification services to pay the ransomware claim. That's between the insurance company and the policyholder, whereas the third party is going to involve a suit. I like to talk about media liability a little bit because you're often going to see media packaged with technology, E&O, and cyber. And I'm going to talk about a few claims in there as well. And then everyone knows what general liability is. So I wanted to point out that professional E&O is often excluded on GL. So while you may have bodily injury and property damage, you're not going to have those professional services. It's going to exclude electronic data damages. So that's a really important point. If you have a managed service provider that just has a GL policy, this is a great exclusion to show them why they would need the professional, the technology E&O. Like this isn't going to be covered if you cause electronic data damages. And this is just from a basic ISO form. There's media excluded on GL. You know, of course, if designing or determining content of websites for others, internet search, access, content, or service provider, you know, depending on your managed service provider, what they're doing, this exclusion could apply for personal and advertising injury. Anything on an electronic chat room or bulletin board, guess what that is? Social media. So anything that happens there is excluded. And then arising out of infringement, copyright, patent, trademark, trade secret. So I think probably the biggest claim that we've seen here for managed service providers is we had one MSP that got a pretty big job and needed some help. And so they hired an independent contractor to help with that job. And they kind of just negotiated on a fee, right? And so what this independent contractor was supposed to do was install software on each user's computer, because you need a separate license. Each user needs a separate license. Well, this independent contractor just took the money and was like, well, I can cut costs if I install the same license on every user's computer. Well, Microsoft didn't like that so much and came after our insured. So, you know, just really important. That's, you don't want to have a Microsoft claim, right? And if you're explaining that kind of claim scenario to an insured, the insured's probably going to say, well, I would never do that. I know better. Yeah, but in this case, it was independent contractor, and the independent contractor was covered as insured on the policy. So important to find out where the independent contractors are covered, and if they're covered on the policy, because they may, you know, mess something up for your policy holder. And then I'm sure that you've seen more and more cyber exclusions going on, the GL, cyber incident exclusions. There's, you know, recording and distribution of material of information, violation of law. That's an older exclusion, but it sometimes still gets triggered for people that are looking for cyber coverage on their GL. If there is cyber coverage, it's going to be really small sublimits. So just important exclusions to point out as you're trying to sell this coverage to the MSPs, like you may not be covered. You know, you think you're covered on your GL policy and you're not.